Good evening, everyone. I extend to you a very warm welcome to today's session. I sincerely hope that all of you are in the best of your health. I am Khwaish from the Economic Times, your host for today's session. Today's panel discussion will be on the topic Maximum Marketing, Unleashing True Potential with AI, organized by Talent Sprint, IIM Calcutta, and ET Brand Equity. But before we get started, I would like to take a couple of minutes to set the context and then bring in our speakers to get the discussion rolling. With an explosion in the availability of data, powerful insights can be derived into individual consumer behavior. AI makes personalized marketing at scale a present-day reality. It offers an opportunity to upsell, cross-sell, and enhance the ROI of marketing investments. In today's session, we aim to unfold the various possibilities of using AI to make better marketing decisions, enhance marketing yield, and customer experience. And to enlighten us further on the topic, we have with us today three very experienced veterans. First, we have with us Mr. Sarvan Jaikumar, Professor Marketing Group, IIM Calcutta. Professor Sarvan's research work is primarily in the nexus of public policy, development, and marketing. He is a subject matter expert in marketing analytics, AI, machine learning, and digital marketing. Professor Sarvan has developed and served as the incumbent director for analytics and digital marketing programs for executives. Welcome, Mr. Jaikumar. Next, we have with us Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan Ji, Senior Vice President and Global Delivery Head, Polestar Solution. He is a management consultant and a business leader who loves solving business problems with the help of AI and digital technologies. He is an experienced management consultant with extensive experience in providing AI and analytics consulting. His core areas include analytics, digital media, pre-sales, and omni-channel marketing campaigns. Welcome, Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan.
Thank you.
Finally, we have with us Erythro Bhattacharya, Senior Director, Sales and Marketing, Talent Sprint. With over a decade of experience in education, e-learning, and people assessment space, he has extensively worked in revenue generation, HR consulting, market research, and account management. Mr. Bhattacharya received his MBA in Marketing and Finance from IBS Hyderabad. He is also an alumnus of IIM Calcutta's Advanced Research Program in AI-powered marketing. Welcome, Mr. Bhattacharya.
Thank you so much.
A quick announcement before we move on to our discussion. So as the discussion progresses, I would request our audiences to keep sharing their questions with us in the Q&A tab. Towards the end, we will pick up the questions for our speakers to answer them. So without any further delay, I would now request Mr. Bhattacharya to start off today's discussion. Over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Khwaish. Thank you so much. Again, like to extend my warm welcome to Professor Lakshmi Narayanan and Professor Sarvana. It's good to always meet you. I have been your students as a part of the program itself, and it's lovely to connect back again on a very interesting topic and a very topical topic, which probably is going to affect marketers going forward as well. So, without wasting a lot of time, etc., we are going to talk about maximum marketing, right? So that's the topic that we have for the day today. So, like to ask you, Professor Lakshmi, according to you is, maximum marketing?
Good. Thanks, Erythro. This is one topic which is pretty much relevant to the current context when marketers are struggling to find out what would be the right channel for them to use, considering the plethora of options that they have. So according to me, maximum marketing is the kind of the revenue maximization, the efficiency optimization. How can you achieve it with the kind of channels that you have? The data-driven decision-making, what we generally call it as in the world of marketing analytics. So can we use data coming from different channels to achieve the maximum potential of our marketing efforts? That's what I would call it as maximum marketing. That is bringing the power of the creativity on one side, which usually marketers are known for, and bringing the power of data on the other side, using the complete analytical mindset, looking at how the campaigns are working, analyzing what can be done better, which one has worked, who has watched our websites, when are they checking it, when are they coming to our website, which lead magnets are working for us. Are we able to look at all these data points, collate them, understand them, decode them, analyze and get certain insights out of it? And from there, if you're able to maximize the potential of your marketing efforts with the help of your team, that's what I would call it as maximum marketing. So yes, are we heading towards that? Yes, we have taken baby steps, no doubt about it. A lot of people are trying it in their own way. But is there a structured way of maximizing this? Definitely yes. That's what I think is the need of the hour in the market today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Professor Sarvana, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Lakshminarayan actually said. It doesn't matter what scale you're operating at. You could be a very small organization, or it could be a large scale organization with a huge marketing budget. But I would define maximum marketing as having that limited resources, but at the same time maximizing the return on that advertising spend that you're actually putting into the market, right? For instance, you might have a 5 lakh budget, or you might have a 50 lakh budget, but irrespective of that, are you able to attain that return on that advertising spend? Are you able to maximize that, optimize that particular spend? So this is where data driven marketing would help a lot, and help you to optimize on a continuous manner, so that you're getting the maximum bang for the buck that you're spending on your advertising. So I completely agree with the definition that Lakshminarayan actually just said. Yeah.
Right. So if we were to kind of just look at this, as a concept for a second here, where we say that we want to maximize, marketing, what we are doing. I mean, what would be the metric that we would currently use that we know that, we have gone beyond what we are getting right now? Because a lot of it would involve not knowing, what could be the potential return that is there. So how do we go about, understanding if we have kind of, Professor Lakshminarayan mentioned we've taken baby steps. So what could we do to kind of get to a stage where we are saying that, yeah, we've gotten decent, we've been able to do something in a decent fashion?
Yeah. Lakshminarayan, you want to take a shot at it first? Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll just take a quick stab at it. I mean, I'll go with the popular management answer. It depends. So it depends on industry, it depends on products, because every time when somebody approaches us with a question like, sir, I have spent so much money, what should be the ideal ROI? Or I would like to get this revenue, what should be the ideal marketing budget for me? So when such questions come up, there is no straightforward thumb rule that we can help them with. But one thing I can tell you for sure, trust the process. The process of looking at what you are putting in as part of the campaigns. Are you analyzing the campaigns better? As I was telling it earlier, are you looking at the data? Because compared to the traditional marketing world where we were in a few years back, the measurement of campaigns, adjusting the campaigns quickly for what is happening with those campaigns, are they effective or not? It took us a lot of time to react on what is happening in the market. But today, thanks to all the digital marketing and the kind of analytics that are driving the marketing campaigns, you can take it on the go. You can understand whether the campaign is performing well or not. You can do alpha beta testing and understand quickly where it is working, where it is not working, and then take quick calls on how to fine tune the campaigns and make it successful in a short time. It need not be like you start a campaign which is going to be a failure in the long run. You may start as a failed campaign, but are you smart enough to pick it up and turn it around with the data that is giving you the update? So that's where I would say that ROI comes in. The return on investment is more about how much time you are investing on capturing data, analyzing it, and then looking at measuring the whole aspect, because you can't manage what you can't measure. That's the key. In marketing, managing was always a challenge with the campaigns. Today, we have an opportunity to measure. Can you manage it better? That's the key here. Yes, Professor Sarvana, please go ahead.
Yeah. So just to add to that, right, there is no benchmark per se for all the, return on advertising spend in different channels and even in digital marketing. But the whole point is about continuous improvement, right? For instance, you compare it to last period, what exactly were your was your performance? If you're running Google Ads, what was the click-through rate? What was the conversion that you got? What was the kind of revenue that you generated? Can I optimize it and make it better in this particular time period? The time period that you said could be 2 weeks, It could be 1 month, it could be a quarter. Irrespective of that, you are comparing yourself with your own performance in the past. And can you actually optimize it and make it, fine tune it and make it a little better, right? And it's a never ending process. It's not that, you're done by the time you get an ROI of, let's say, 600%, you're done. It's not really the case. You have to continuously optimize it on a regular basis. There is always a room for improvement. And that's where this data-driven marketing decisions would play a huge role, where you're able to look at the, if you're running a search engine campaign, are you able to look at the, keywords? Are you able to look at the campaign structure? Are you able to look at the ad copies? Look at what the data is telling you, and can you fine tune it for the next time period, right? So that it's a continuous process. So I wouldn't come up with a benchmark or a formula or a thumb rule and say, this is the number that you have to achieve, but it's more about you're in competition with yourself from your past, right? How did you perform in the last time period? Can you actually look at the data, come up with the insights and optimize the campaign in the current time period and make it a little better? So it's always, continuous improvement. It's a continuous process, right?
Yeah, very interesting. So we'll move a little further. And we've been talking about data, using data, etc., etc. Marketing has kind of moved beyond the traditional the 4 Ps that we would have all studied, and you still teach. Thanks to AI coming in, which again has led to huge disruptions in the way in which marketing is done. And I'm kind of reminded of, there's a McKinsey study, I think somewhere in the year 2019, which they were kind of saying that, marketing would be one of the most impacted function in an organization thanks to AI. So, whether it is performance marketing, whether it's predictive predictive analytics, etc., etc. So, do you think conventional marketing is at risk? At the sound of asking a very probably a loaded question.
Yeah. Let me just start the response and Lakshman can actually pitch in. But I wouldn't say conventional marketing per se is at risk, but the marketing theories that you have and the models that we used to use traditionally are still very much applicable. I mean, no one would question the, for instance, if you're thinking about segmenting, targeting, and positioning, that concept still remains the same, very much the same. But how we approach the same problem, given the data that we have and given the kind of insights that we can draw out of the data, has actually changed quite a bit. Right. So some of the key changes would be like, we're able to better track the results. Right. Earlier, tracking was a huge problematic thing. When you run a television ad, you just know the estimated number of people who have actually viewed that particular ad. But now in the digital medium, we are able to track every single impression that we're able to get. So tracking has actually definitely improved, and that kind of changes the way that you look at the data that comes along, right? And definitely targeting has become a lot more precise. Earlier, we are targeting a particular group of consumers based on going to a particular newspaper or a particular magazine. But now we are able to target based on people's interests, or you target a particular keyword with a particular kind of ad copy and so on and so forth. So targeting has definitely improved, and also the way that we change or tweak the tweak the ad copies and tweak the ads that we put out there, right? So that's quite quicker now. Earlier, if I had to take down a banner, it's a huge decision, and I have to figure out what are the costs involved, what is the time lag, and so on and so forth. But now I can run A/B testing at the same time, figure out which one is working better, and I can actually tweak everything in real time. So that way, there are a lot of changes in how we approach marketing per se. But the traditional marketing theories and what the models that we used to have, or the concepts that were traditionally developed, would still hold. But the way that we're looking at tracking, targeting, and tweaking per se, those have changed quite a bit, quite drastically. So as a marketer, you need to know the traditional thinking as well, but at the same time, how I can leverage this digital data and tracking to take better decisions. So that's where I would say that the huge impact of digital would be. Right, Alexander, would you like to add to this? Yeah.
Yes, Professor Saravana, I fairly agree with you. Like as you rightly mentioned, conventional marketing is not at risk. I mean, I always tell this to my students here in this program, like wherever your customers are, you need to be there. If they're watching TV, you have to be in front of them through the TV. If they are checking mobile, ensure that you have your ads through mobile or YouTube or any platform, wherever they are. So keeping that in mind, I can definitely say that conventional marketing is not at risk. But yes, conventional channels, we have to use them, no doubt about it. But can you bring some intelligence aspect to it, to this whole process of marketing, as Professor Saravana was talking about? Is there a way that I can bring some pattern recognitions? Is there a way that I can understand what is my target audience telling me? Who is my target audience? And what kind of data which is helping me to analyze that? If I'm able to look from that point of view, I'm sure AI is going to revolutionize the marketing space. It has already started doing it. While I work with my clients, I can see huge potential in certain predicting algorithms. Like, for example, they would like to predict sales forecasts. They would like to optimize the campaigns, the campaign analytics with the help of predictions they would like to bring across. They are using the power of statistics and the advanced machine learning algorithms to see how the digital acquisition can improve over a period of time. Because this is one buzzword these days, isn't it? Apart from all the traditional channels, people would like to use digital channels for acquiring more customers. And everyone knows that, okay, you need to be present in all the channels. But the point is how well you're using those channels. Are you able to use it smartly? A smart marketer uses smart algorithms for driving decisions through data. So that's where I think AI is going to make a difference. Use cases are plenty, no doubt about it, in this space.
Absolutely. It kind of, dovetails. I'll dovetail into the next question when we're talking about digital marketing and data that you mentioned, right? With digital marketing, a lot of data is getting generated, connected devices, everything is there. There's so much data, we can glean. YouTube data we can kind of scrape off and understand, how people are viewing videos and all of that. A lot of data is getting created. A majority of it is probably in an unstructured form, right? Whereby it's not something which is easy to digest. Neither is it easy to derive insights, right? So from that perspective, and with the proliferation of data that is there, how can AI help us in this? In kind of making sense of this whole universe of data that is getting generated, and there's a lot of data that already exists, right? Between marketing and finance functions, probably these are the two heaviest creators and consumers of data, so to speak, in most organizations. So it's how will AI help solve this question for marketers? Who is my next customer, like, for example, or how do I get the best return from a channel, or should I actually even use X channel or Y channel or Z channel, etc. If you can talk in a little bit in terms of a couple of practical examples, I'm sure both of you would have come across umpteen such use cases for for the benefit of our audience today. So that's the question. I mean, Professor Sarvana can start off if, and then Professor Lakshminarayan can continue.
Yeah, thanks, Artu. That's an interesting question, right? So with the advent of digital marketing and widespread adoption of digital and social media marketing, data is actually quite easily available, and you have a huge amount of data in terms of clickstream data. You have data on how much every user is actually spending on every single page, what is the time that they're spending on each page, and you have huge amount of data that is being generated in real time, right? And AI can definitely bring in some sort of insights over there. So AML algorithms can deal with unstructured data very effectively. So we have whether it be textual data or you have huge number of variables, you can actually bring it down to a manageable number and so on and so forth. AI is actually quite efficient in doing that. Without getting into the technical details, whether it's structured or unstructured data, there are several different algorithms that can actually effectively address, and you can use them to derive business insights, useful insights. I can give a couple of examples, use cases, based on what we have worked with in the industry, as well as some of the previous batches. One, if I look at, let's say, I have run a lot of campaigns in the past. I've run a lot of Facebook campaigns in the past. This actually, I'm using an example currently that the current batch is currently working on. So there are, let's say they've done about 100 different, 200 different Facebook campaigns with different audiences, and they've used different creatives in each one of those paid Facebook campaigns, and they have the results as well. How many people have viewed it, and how many people have clicked on it, and how many people have actually converted. So you have all this data that is there. So what AML can do here is we can actually build a predictive algorithm and see what kind of audience and what kind of creative has resulted in maximum amount of conversions. So I can actually for the future, I can input those parameters and see this is the campaign I'm planning to run. So the AML can actually give you, the ML algorithm can tell you what is a predicted impression that you would get, what is a predicted, conversion that you're likely to get, so on and so forth. So unstructured data, they're actually converting into some sort of a structured form, and you're actually deriving useful insights out of that. So that's from a pre-marketing space. Even in lead generation, for instance, you might be running hundreds of different campaigns to generate leads, and leads, you're, in the end, you're converting them to, purchase something from your company. So what are the leads that are likely to convert, right? What is the probability that, this lead is likely to purchase in the next 1 month? So AML can come up with accurate predictions of that sort, and this would help you in, optimizing your resources. For instance, allotting salespeople to the right person at the right time, and so on and so forth. This can actually improve your sales force efficiency to a much greater extent. These are just two simple examples that, that are on the ground, that are very much implementable and very much easy to convert. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of other examples that are being applied even now as we speak in the current batch. Right, Lakshmana, would you like to add to that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Professor Aruna. So in fact, one application which we tried with the recent batch of this program, creating chatbots. So chatbots that can help in improving customer service. Is there a way that we can bring artificial intelligence element to it? Of course, yes. So we created for one particular use case, how the chatbots can interact, how you can create the whole end-to-end chatbot. So that's something that was, I mean, a kind of a toy that everyone played around for nearly 3 hours in the class, creating something for a particular marketing application. And second important aspect, as Professor Sarvana was talking about, segmentation, the one that he touched upon. Micro segmentation is one area I would say that AI can play a significant role. Like, can I segment the customers further based on their behavioral or demographic attributes, which AI can definitely help us to identify those small patterns, identify who are those patterns and why are they buying your product. You can understand more about those segments also with the help of AI. So definitely that's something which is going to play a big role. And last but not least, the future. Today, if you ask any marketeer, what is the future holding for you? The first answer that would come up is metaverse, isn't it? So everyone is talking about metaverse. That's the buzzword. Can you talk about metaverse without AI in it? Not really. So that holds the key, because the moment you talk about AR, VR, everything coming into picture, all you're trying to do is you're using automation. You're capturing so many data points. Is there a way that you can start looking at patterns in those data points? If you want to look at it, AI is the only technology that can help you out in that. So future is for meta. Of course, AI without meta, without AI, it doesn't make sense. So marketers have a huge role to play in that.
Absolutely. Very well put. I mean, which also kind of, brings me to a common, I would say, question that comes in people's minds is that, whenever we talk of AI, the thing is that, I need infrastructure, I need a lot of people, etc., and all of that. And we would have seen this across, many, organizations when we talk to saying that, no, this is not for me. So just for understanding, I mean, what does it need? Actually, can a small organization, for example, or a small team, I'm not even going to talk about the size of the organization, can a small team, regular marketeers, etc., can they use AI in any form without, extensive budgets and hiring a lot of people?
Yeah, definitely. So that, one big misconception is the moment we mention AML to, people who are not exposed to that particular domain, they think of Sophia the robot as the, the only implementation of, AML per se. It's not at that level. AML, when you have data, how can I use that data, leverage the data to, come up with predictive analytics, and how can I leverage those predictions to come up with better prescriptive insights. So that's where AML can play. And a small team of, 3 or 4 people who understand these technologies, who understand these algorithms, would be able to implement it at literally no cost at all. The only effort that is required is the time. And if you're familiar with this particular, algorithms and how to run them, it takes very limited time for you to actually brainstorm, come up with all the predictions. What are the things that we need to predict? How can we predict them? And evaluate those models and deploy them in real time. So it's not that expensive if you think about it. And one, we're not talking about virtual reality. We're not talking about creating physical implementations of AML. We're talking about, actually running certain models in your simple desktops and laptops. Those are more than sufficient to run the AML models that we have. With, even if you have 2 lakh, 20 lakh data points, your laptop could handle that very well. You don't need a higher computing power or higher computing systems to actually run any of those models. So the first misconception that we have in the market is, we need huge infrastructure. We need to invest a lot in getting, processing power and so on and so forth. That is not required at any level at all, right? And the second misconception that we have is we need a huge team that can actually run these models, and these are technologically very complex and so on and so forth. Not really. That is also another myth that is there. Our aim with this program is also to break that myth, break these two myths. Like, it's very simple. You have that your organization might already be generating a lot of data. And how can it take the data, identify the metrics that would be relevant for me, identify the outcome variables that would be very relevant for me as a marketer, and can it build a simple algorithm to actually come up with predictive analytics? How can I put them in practice, and how can I better leverage them and take better decisions? And if you look at the current batch or the last three batches, the last three cohorts that we had, so they were all actually a small team of 4 or 5 members, and with none of them with any coding background at all whatsoever, and they were able to come up with a absolutely brilliant AML applications for their particular organizations, and they're actually few of them also implemented them in their organizations, and we have a lot of success stories of that sort from the last 3 cohorts. Yeah, Lakshman, please, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, just to continue where you left, the focus that is lacking in today's market is we have the technology, and the role of the technology, we need to understand that better. That is, what is the role of technology? It is to solve problems for us. So the problems in marketing, what kind of problems I can solve with the help of technology? What could be the potential use cases for AI in the space of marketing? That is one perspective which we are seeing is something which is generally lacking in the market. And there are a lot of people who can do all these things, like as Arithro was rightly talking about, the teams that can work on data and everything. There are a lot of people who can do that for us. But the first step is, can you visualize a problem? Can you find out what is the right problem you would like to fix with the help of data, with the help of technology? The moment you fix that, rest of the things will fall in place. You don't need huge data. You don't need huge teams to do that. We can start, the moment you have this clarity, rest of things will fall in place. And that's a perspective that we would like to develop. I mean, we have been seeing that the batches are also developing it over a period of time through this program. Like, oh, this is the problem. I can use this particular algorithm to solve this problem. That perspective is what we would like to develop as part of this whole exercise.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Absolutely. And which kind of, gets me to my, next part of the conversation. We've been talking about data, et cetera, et cetera. Now, one very common question that will come in anybody's mind is that, and it's a very practical problem. I mean, what kind of new technologies do I use? What, traditional, channels do I use, et cetera, et cetera. And AI now is this new variable that has come into the equation, so to speak. At what point in time does a marketer, or if we are managing budgets, channels, the function as a whole, do we decide that this is the time that I should actually now look at using models instead of probably just depending on my Excel sheets, etc., etc. So when is the right time? When do people know? Is there any threshold, or is it just whenever you are competent enough or you feel confident enough to do it? According to you, I mean, I know there's probably no right answer per se, but according to you, what would you think is the right time? Probably Professor Sarvana, you can start that. Professor Lakshminarayan can go on.
Yeah, so like you rightly mentioned, there is no right or wrong answer here, and there is no right time per se. So we discussed 2 approaches as part of this program. One is bottom up, the other one is top down. So a bottom up would be like, you have different systems in place in your organization, and your organization is currently gathering a lot of data in several functions and divisions. So you have the data available to you, which is being reported on a monthly basis by the strategy team, or to the top management, your division head. So there'll be a lot of data that is currently being used to describe what has been happening so far, right? So the bottom up approach would be taking the data that is readily available and immediately trying to figure out, once you know that these are the technologies, these are the algorithms that are available, these are the capabilities of these different algorithms. So it becomes, it's kind of immediate. You don't really have a lead time to, starting to implement AML in an organization. So once you have the data in hand, the next step would be to figure out, how can I better leverage this data? What can be the outcome variables that I can predict? And the moment I solve that particular issue, that this is what I need to predict, the next thing is, how is it going to be useful to me? How am I actually going to use it in my organization to improve the marketing as a function? Right? How is it going to improve? One example is the Salesforce optimization. So there is no right time per se. So if you have the capability and if you have the understanding in the organization, the time would be now. Right? You can immediately start working on it, because it's a continuous process. You can start immediately, and you can start seeing making small changes at the bottom up level. Whereas if you're a startup and you're starting altogether new and you're able to implement it at a top-down level, right from the business process, you're able to define everything. That is going to be a completely data-driven organization. So that will be a different approach. So the thing that we kind of propose and we ask this batch to actually work on would be the bottom-up approach, because most of them are working in well-established organizations and they have their own processes and they have their own systems in place, and they're all generating a lot of data on a monthly basis. So how to better leverage the data and immediately start looking at the data that is being generated on the ground. How can I apply these algorithms that I've learned for these particular data, and right from the day one, right? It's not, there is no lead time per se. The only thing that is lacking in the marketing is, lacking in the market is a person with both the marketing knowledge as well as the understanding of what these technologies and algorithms can do. The moment a person gets this kind of expertise, then it's kind of like an immediate thing that we recommend that you start implementing it right away in a small scale and start building up from there. Yeah, Professor Lakshminarayanan can add to this thought as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll just pick it up from the last point what Professor mentioned. So in today's market, I'm sure all of you would be seeing this trend that is happening now. Everyone talks about digital transformation. That's a buzzword in the market, right? Take any B school, any college, I'm sure the programs are running on this digital transformation of finance, marketing, HR, every area. In fact, the reason behind that is today in the market, you cannot survive with just expertise of one domain. That is marketing, HR, finance. With one domain knowledge, it's really tough to survive in the market. So there you need to complement yourself with a lot of other skills. Like if you're a finance grad, have you picked up blockchain? Have you understood how the cryptocurrencies work? So there are some other things that you need to pick up. When you come to marketing, what very few technologies are available from the marketing space. Like for example, we talk about digital marketing. That's something that has become matured now in the market to an extent. Now we're talking about using AI, analytics, and other aspects. So domain plus technology is something that everyone has to pick it up as a skill. And the goal here is how can you marry the technology and the domain together to solve the problems in your organization. So that's where it's always like, I come from a world where the deadline is always yesterday. So have you not done this before? That's the question that we always ask in the consulting world. Same way, if you have the CRM data, ERP data, everything that is available in the organization, start with that. So you have already huge volumes of data to begin with, explore, find out what kind of insights that you can derive from that and what kind of decisions you can take from that. Maybe that's a good beginning for you while you are exploring other areas for you to newly initiate something in your organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It kind of also, flows in. We've often heard this, and again, I would want to get your views on this. B2C kind of, business where we generally, get a lot of data that gets created thanks to our campaigns, etc. We've also had, people who are mostly into B2B space where comparatively, the number of people that you will reach out to will be much lesser, right? So is there a use case for AI and anything that, you are aware of where there has been a successful implementation of AI in the B2B marketing space, marketing sales kind of a space, so that, people, we just, where we kind of want to look at the fact that, it's not just something from happening in a B2C space, but there's also value in it in the B2B space. Professor Sarvana?
Yeah, sure. I'll ask Lakshminarayanan to respond to that because he's currently working in B2B and he has so that's what I was waiting for him to start. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. So only one thing I would like to bring across here. For any artificial intelligence technology or model to come into picture, the underlying aspect is automation. That is, have you automated the systems? Have you integrated the systems so that you are able to see the complete data in one place so that you can play around with the data on top of it with the help of AI? Now, with this fundamental philosophy in mind, where do you think you have a better integration of all the systems, B2B or B2C? I would always say it's B2B because we are dealing with enterprises which are integrating data in a better way, which has built data warehouses and other aspects in already, and they are looking at further finding a lot of intelligence from the automated data, from the data that has been residing there, data trust, what we call it as in the analytics world. So we'd like to explore more from that space. So use cases are plenty. The simplest use cases, demand forecasting. The sales forecasting that we talk about generally. Can you predict what is the demand that would come up? So definitely with the data that we have from ERP and the CRM, it's easier for us to do it. And for B2B, this is a genuine use case. And most of the clients start with this demand forecasting machine learning model to be brought across. The time series models are doing some job, but of course, advanced machine learning models would bring a lot of difference in that space. So that I would cite it as a good example for B2B space to begin with. Professor Sarvana, yes.
Yeah. So I'll start from where you left off. So one is actually obviously demand forecasting and sales forecast. The other one is, sales force efficiency as well. You can optimize the sales force efficiency. You have different regions, and you have a lot of leads coming in. So who do I, when do I actually hand over the leads to the salespeople, and at what point in time? So AI can actually, during the program, we also talk about use cases where, AI automatically deals with the, following up the leads and sending them emails and following up with them. And automatically, when they come to a stage when they're actually likely to convert, the AI automatically hands over this particular lead to a particular salesperson. So that way, you're actually reducing the load on salespeople as well. That's one example of a use case. Another example would be you have hundreds of leads come in, you've done a trade show and you have hundreds of leads come in. Which of the leads you need to focus on at this point? Who are the hot leads, who are the warm leads, and who are the cold leads? So AI can actually help you in predicting based on, historically what has happened in your organization. You can predict who are likely to be a hot leads, and you can actually optimize your salesperson efforts as well. So there AI can actually come in and, help you out in sales force efficiency. That's just a simple use case. But apart from that, if you're running any sort of campaign, you have done a lot of campaigns. It could be an offline, it could be an online campaign. What is the spike in demand after that? What is the spike in inquiries after that? What kind of personnel would I need to respond, take care of all of those spikes? There also AML and especially the sales forecast and demand forecast models can actually help out a lot. So the use cases are plenty. And in the last 3 cohorts, I think we've had 3 or 4 projects. 3 projects I remember very well. They were done in the B2B space. Applications are endless in the B2B space as well. I mean, apart from marketing, there are other areas where AML can also contribute. Like, for instance, it's predictive maintenance in different organizations and so on and so forth. But I wouldn't deviate into the other domains. But mainly in marketing, there are several use cases for B2B as well. We have just discussed few of them per se. Yeah.
Absolutely. One very interesting, and again, this is, I'm sure most of the marketers would be able, to relate to this very well. We have our social media pages, be it an Instagram handles, Facebook pages, YouTube channels, etc., etc. A lot of, comments kind of come in over there, and that's a lot of, valuable information, so to speak. Can you give us any example? I remember one of those. It was, I think, there was the ISKCON of how they kind of use social media, information to kind of start. Can we just talk a little bit about that as well? Because that's something I'm sure a lot of people would be able to relate to very easily.
Definitely. Right. So when you think about social media, for a small scale company with just, focusing on a couple of platforms, it could be easier to manage it on a manual level. And you have a team of 2 people who are responding to all those, comments and posts that are coming up. But when you grow a little, when you grow and when you expand, and when you have a lot of information coming in through, let's say, different social media platforms and different blogs and forums, so it kind of becomes a little difficult to handle it manually. So AML comes in over there. So the one example that we had a case on was ISKCON, where they have huge number of reviews and comments about different ISKCON facilities coming up social media. So how do we identify the ones that are actually positive, the ones that are negative? What are the key themes that are coming out of this all these reviews that are being posted in the last 1 or 2 months? And what kind of insights can I derive out of that? So one is, you can come up with, you can automate the entire thing and say, these are the comments that are positive. So these were the percentage of comments that are positive in nature. These were the percentage of comments that were negative in nature. AML can actually easily identify those comments. And you can look at the negative comments and see what are the themes that are typically coming out of the negative comments and how do we address them so that these negative comments are reduced. And the number 2, I've already identified out of 1,000 comments, maybe 20 of them are negative in nature. So rather than manually going through them, AML has actually shown me that these are the comments that are negative in nature. So I can actually go to those and I can respond and take corrective action over there as well. So that's one way that I can actually look at the AML application in the social media space. Another useful application is to develop word clouds where there are 2,000 comments, and what is the overall theme that is emerging out of these comments? What is it that people are talking about frequently? What are the themes that people are talking about frequently? I can generate that easily with AML, and I can automate that as well. Periodically, I can get those word clouds to make sure that all the positive associations are there for my brand, and if negative association come up, I know that I need to take a corrective action there. Apart from that, I can also build, several systems where I can build a dashboard using AML and say, I pull out all these comments from social media automatically, and I can generate a report on a weekly basis and say, this is the trend in terms of positive comments that are coming up. These are the trends in negative comments. If there's a spike in negative, that it automatically creates an alert, and we go back and try to take a corrective action over there. So these are just direct applications of few algorithms that we have and that we can apply. But there are a lot of other advanced stuff that you can think, you can brainstorm, and you can come up with how to apply AML algorithms in using those comments and so on and so forth. Yeah, Professor Lakshman, would you like to add to this? Yeah.
Yeah, just one example which all of us can relate to. I always say this, that any feedback or anything you would like to decide on a particular product, you always need to take the complete feedback, the qualitative as well as the quantitative. Like for example, you go to Amazon, you would like to buy a product in Amazon, let's say. You look at the product reviews, the overall star rating of the product, whether it is 4.3, 4.5, you check that, and then you start making a comparison based on the reviews. And you look at the number of reviews. Yes, good. The quantitative data is giving you some kind of a perspective about the product. Now, we don't stop there, right? We always get to the bottom part of the page, scroll down and check out what kind of comments have come for that particular product. In fact, that's where I would always give this as an example to everyone, like the way Amazon analyzes the text and comes up with the tags for each and every product. The top 10 different phrases that are being used across by different reviewers, they put it across. It's easy for people to review those tags, click those tags and review those comments. It's easy for people to read and then find out whether they need to buy the product or not. So text analytics using artificial intelligence is something that can help people to take decisions easily. And yes, a lot of companies have started adopting it. It has become a very common phenomenon in US for using machine learning models to analyze everything that happens in the online world. Soon in India also, we'll start seeing all these products being analyzed with the help of tweets and Facebook posts and everything, which is happening in bits and pieces. Of course, it's going to become a phenomenon soon across all companies.
Absolutely. And all of this, et cetera, kind of helped or led to the launch of, the AI-powered marketing program by Calcutta about 2 years ago. About 200 odd, participants have, graduated or are in the process of graduating out of this program. So in this last 2 years that, we've run this program, what's been your experience in terms of, teaching, these professionals, and what's been the kind of learnings that people have had, any kind of successes? I'm sure you are in touch with most of the cohorts, even the ones who have graduated out a while back. So if you can just share some insights along, about, the kind of, say for projects, outcomes that participants have had over the last 2 years.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I think we've had different kinds of outcomes. One group, I would say, they were experienced professionals. They had about 10 to 12 years of experience. And when they were starting the program, they were kind of skeptical about, would I be able to learn this AML or anything? And in the end, surprisingly, they were the ones who actually performed really, really well in the program. And after the program, we had a couple of cases where initially they were skeptical, but later they came back to us and said, can you give us a recommendation, because we're trying to go and do an MSc in data analytics. We want to do a full-time degree in that, and we want to make a career change. So we've had people who changed their careers completely, who changed their domains completely after the program. So there are a few people who went into full-time studies after that. There are several candidates who actually had came up with their own data sets during the course of the program. They took the data sets from their organization. They actually did a capstone project as part of it. And after the program was done, they were able to implement, and several of them had their roles also changed. I'm in touch with a few of them. We were all in touch on LinkedIn, and we have created a couple of groups, and people keep updating us on what has been happening in that. Unfortunately, the last 3 years, we've not had a campus visit because of the COVID pandemic. This time, we're hoping to have a campus visit, and we're hoping to meet a lot of students in person. Having said that, many from the first and the second batch have visited campus, though individually, to meet with the faculty and to interact and update on what exactly is going on in their professional life. So we've heard a lot of success stories in terms of how they've implemented the learnings in their workspace. Some of them have changed careers. Some of them have gone back to full-time studies as well. So there are several different outcomes that you could see, but all of them are positive. So none of them are negative outcomes per se. So all of them are positive in some sense. Yeah.
And in terms of the program by itself, has it kind of evolved from the time that it started to address? It's an ever-evolving situation, right? So what's been the evolution of the program also over the last couple of years?
Yeah. So initially when we started, it was a new ground for us as well. We had a very clear concept in mind that we need a marketer who could understand these algorithms and technologies really well, who could act as a liaison, who would be literally a translator between the business function as well as the data analytics function. So that was our initial idea. But over time, the program has evolved. And initially, we had actually focused on R as a programming platform for giving some hands-on. It's not a coding-heavy program, but we still do give some hands-on because only when you try and implement and understand that it's actually very simple to implement, people overcome that hurdle and in their mind that okay, they can also implement that AML algorithms. So now we have actually moved to Python because there's a repeated request from candidates that we would now want to move to Python because the entire industry is using Python. So from the fourth cohort onwards, we'll be using Python as a programming language, but that's the minor part of the program anyway. It's just one module where we talk about Python per se. Apart from that, in terms of the content, it has evolved over the last couple of batches. The emphasis is a lot more on the data generated in the digital world. So we are trying to focus a lot more. One of them would be ISCON, where we talk about text analytics, and we have data from Clickstream, data from another company in India. We have data from Big Basket in terms of the recommendation systems and so on and so forth. So we are using those cases with the data attached to them, and most of them are from Indian context. So that way the program has evolved over a period of time. Even we have restructured the modules to meet the demands of based on the feedback that we got from the first few cohorts. So now the focus is a lot more at the strategy level in terms of what kind of insights can you draw from different predictions. What are the predictions that you can come up with given the data that you have? What kind of insights can you come up with that? How can you deploy them and how can you implement them in real life? So that's what the focus is right now. The coding is a minor part of the program altogether, right? There will be some sort of coding involved, but no coding background is required. So we have completely eliminated any sort of coding background requirements per se. The person need not have a background in coding, need not have an engineering background, need not have a statistical background. We will not be talking about pure statistics as part of this program. We'll be talking about intuition behind these algorithms and try to explain them in a simple language that everybody could understand and relate to. So that's how the program has evolved over a period of time. Right now, it's a combination of more focus on digital and strategy side, and we have moved to Python for the programming platform, and the focus is a lot more on the case studies that we are actually providing in the digital space. Yeah.
Very interesting. Professor Lakshminarayan, anything you would want to add?
Yes, the only thing I was just adding earlier as part of the earlier point also, like the perspectives. That's what we would like to leave the students with. How can they solve the real world marketing problems in new ways? Solving old problems with the new ways. That's an important perspective we'd like to leave the students with. And yes, if they are able to get this particular skill, the next 10 to 15 years is something which is going to be a kind of a breezy path for them. And we always say that, right? Every degree has an expiry date. And we have carefully crafted this curriculum in such a way that this is going to help them sustain in this evergreen, ever-changing market over the next 10 to 15 years at least. That's what is the goal.
Absolutely. I mean, very well put. I couldn't agree more on that, being a student myself. But thank you so much. So I think we are at about 5:20 now. So we will be taking questions from the audience. Quaish, you will be taking over this part, I believe.
Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen, for such an insightful session. We gathered quite some interesting learnings today. We will now move on to our Q&A tab. I will keep the questions open for all the panelists so that any one of you can take it up as deemed suitable. However, the first question that we have from our audience today is, I am a data scientist. How will this program be of use to me?
Yeah, I can take a shot at election. So even if you're a data scientist, you are well aware of the coding background, everything. So here we are talking about marketing applications per se. So we would talk about data-driven marketing decisions. We'll start from there. The module 1 is data-driven marketing decisions. So we will talk at a conceptual level as well. Where does data come in? What kind of insights can you draw out of that? And how can it help the marketing function per se? So even if you're a data scientist, this program will add value in terms of understanding how this is applied in a business context. So that's where I would say it adds value to a data scientist. Lakshmana, would you like to add?
No, I think you have covered all the points. Yes, that's good, Sarvana.
Yeah.
That was quite insightful. So the next question that we have from our audience is, how is this AI-powered marketing program offered by IIM Calcutta going to help a digital marketer?
Yeah, I can start and Lakshmana can add to it. So as a digital marketer, like we discussed earlier, you have a plethora of data thrown at you. You have access to a lot of data that you're able to generate and use on a regular basis. So AML would come in to help you to fine tune your marketing initiatives, fine tune your initiatives in digital search or in social media per se, and it also can help you to optimize your marketing spend. So that's where AML would come in. More specific applications, I would not go into detail at this point because that may not be relevant to all the audience here. But Lakshmana, would you like to add? Yeah.
No, as you rightly pointed out, data is something which is making a difference for digital marketing. Compared to the conventional one, digital marketer always enjoys a lot of data collected over multiple channels. So definitely the options, the applications, the use cases for artificial intelligence is plenty in this space. We discussed multiple use cases in our discussion today, like campaign optimization. All those aspects are genuine use cases for AI in this space.
Yeah. Okay. We can go to the next question. Yeah.
So the next question that we have from our audience is, I am from a complete non-tech background. How can I do this program?
Yeah.
I am actually from a non-tech background, by the way. I am a BCom and an MBA. I have done this program, completed it almost more than a year back now, I think, and it's something that has helped me to understand, appreciate code, etc. I have no background of writing codes, anything. We've been able to implement many of these learnings even in our own marketing. So that's something that I would like to start off with. Yeah, professors, you can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So like Arithro said, a majority or almost all the students from the previous batches are mostly from non-tech background, right? So they need not have any coding background. You need not have any mathematical background. We're not going to go into equations. We're not going to go into statistics. We're going to talk about the algorithms in simple, plain English and talk about the intuition behind each one of them. What is the intuition behind each one of these algorithms and how do they work? So there is no technical expertise required per se. And in terms of coding, we will take you from absolute basics. You don't need to have any coding background, and we'll be giving you templates. Basically, what we'll be doing is, here is a syntax. This is what the syntax does, and it's quite easy to read. It's close to English language. It's not like Greek and Latin per se. So it's very much easy to understand and easy to pick up. And we'll be using very simple, template-based coding. So we won't be asking you to code everything from scratch. We'll be actually explaining the templates in class, and we would be sharing the templates also with the candidates. So it becomes a lot more easier for you to use it in any particular scenario. And once you use it 2 or 3 times, then it becomes a lot more easier for you to code on your own, because you're aware of what are the steps that are involved. That's about it. Right. So you don't need to have any sort of a technical background per se, neither in math or nor in coding. Yeah.
All right. So the next question that we have from our audience is, what kind of job opportunities we will get after doing this program?
Professor Lakshmanan, would you like to answer that? Yeah.
Yes. So as I was telling you, any kind of a job in the marketing department, if you're already in marketing department, this would be an upskilling opportunity for you to pick up a new skill to be successful with the help of technology in your marketing space. But anything else, if you notice, I always say this, and you would also know this, like what happens in the West comes to us soon. Today, if you just go and look for jobs in US, we find plenty of jobs related to the concepts of digital acquisition, campaign optimization, all these kind of jobs which are slowly rising. The demand is there, but the supply is not there. So those jobs are going to come to the Indian market, with every company adopting different channels for marketing in the recent past. So the opportunities for a data-driven marketer and AI-driven marketer is something which is going to rise. Of course, the name of the job may not be coming out in a straightforward way. Some people may call it like a machine learning specialist or marketing specialist with machine learning background. All these names would come up with, would evolve, but don't worry about that. But all you need to look at is, if you can be a data-driven marketeer, you'll have umpteen number of options in with different names in the market. That's how I would put it across.
Yeah, and if I may add, I mean, I remember some of my peers. One case kind of stands out in my mind. He had spent about 18 years as a part of a cement company, in a marketing function over there, and that's the only job that he professionally in his entire career he had. He, after I think about 6 months of the program completing, he calls me up one day saying that, Aditya, I'm going to move to Singapore because I have been appointed as the head of marketing for an AI-based analytics company. It's a startup that's kind of coming up based out of Singapore. And again, a complete non-technical person, etc. in nature. And that the job also involves, some bit of product development, market understanding development, and all of that, which obviously would not have been possible. And, these are his words paraphrasing it. Had I not gotten the concepts, had I not understood, what is it that is happening in the world of AI, and how do I use that to kind of, juxtapose that into marketing. So that's one example. There are quite a few other examples that even I am aware of where people have, benefited professionally post the completion of the program.
That was quite insightful. So we move on to our next question that we have from our audience, which is, as a sales professional, what is the use of learning AI?
Yeah, Lakshmana, you can start. I will join in. Yeah, please go.
Yes, we discussed about the use cases like sales forecasting, demand forecasting. We always say this, right? At the end of the day, we have to rely on our sales force to get all the intelligence insights of what is happening in the organization. So sitting in a corporate office, it's really tough to design strategies without knowing what is happening on ground. So how are you going to capture data on ground? Salespeople. The intelligence that is there in the salespeople, the insights, the data that they capture from the stores or whatever outlets that they're dealing with, how are you going to accumulate all the data, and how are you going to help in designing the strategies? So AI for salesmen, if you notice, one is something what Professor Sarvana was talking about, that is optimizing the complete sales channels and how you are delivering through the different Salesforce operations. That's something is one good use case for AI. The second one is the sales force driven strategy. That is, how can you accumulate data insights from different platforms, and how can you help in designing the strategies for the organization, both for sales as well as for the marketing at the top. So that can be done with the help of AI. And that again, I believe that over a period of time, a salesperson would be interested in doing this in an organization. So these are two broad things I would say that salespersons can directly pick it up as application plus roles in the market.
Yeah.
So the last question that we have from our audience is, what are the basic requirements for a candidate to learn AI in marketing? What age group do you suggest to take up this course, and what are the opportunities?
Yeah, there is no age limit per se. So we have, absolute freshers in the industry with 2 years experience, and we've had people with 20, 25 years of experience as well as part of the last 3 cohorts. So there is no age limit per se. So I would suggest, if you are a marketer and you irrespective of what kind of experience how many years of experience you've had, this will be the time to pick up AIML. So, in the next 1 decade or more than a decade and a half, like Professor Lakshmanan said, you are much more relevant and you're able to stay fresh in the market. That answers the age group part of it. In terms of basic requirements, there is no, like I mentioned earlier, there is no technical requirement. You could be completely from an arts background. You could be from, with a BCom, or you could be from a BBA background. Irrespective of that, I think we'll be covering the basics, the fundamentals really in detail. So you don't have to worry about which background you're from. The only requirement is you should have an earning for learning new technologies and new algorithms, and you should be enthusiastic about that. That's the only thing that we require from the candidates. Apart from that, we do have some eligibility criteria. So you can go through the eligibility criteria. For instance, you need to have, I think, 55% at least in postgraduate. Or in graduation, and you need to have at least 2 years of work experience. Those are the requirements for this course. Yeah, and opportunities, I think we already covered, Professor Lakshman already covered what are the opportunities available after learning AI in marketing, and we also covered few examples as well, right? So yeah, we can go to the next question.
Very authentic point stated by Mr. Jaikumar. So with that, we come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you so much, speaker, once again for taking out time and being with us. I hope all of you found this event insightful and engaging as much as we enjoyed it putting it all together. Before we wrap up, Team Economic Times wishes all our audiences safety and the best of health. Have a great evening ahead.